All right, welcome to Sunday. Yes, it's Sunday in West One, in the Riverina, New South Wales, breadbasket of the state and possibly of the country as well. And what have I been doing today? Well, before talking about that, I want to go back to something I was talking about last night. One of the what would you say? One of the things about me is that I often interrupt myself, and I realised when I was going back through the video, and I am the only one going back through it. So there we go. But anyway, I realised that I'd sidetracked myself. So I was talking about some bloke who'd said to me, and I was talking about his business and how it had gone from a big city office down to working in a house, and now they're in an apartment or whatever, or soon will be. Anyway, the reason for that was that he said to me, because he was talking to me about a job, and he wanted me to work for him. And I wasn't really sort of like mega keen on it. And the reason for that is because I never understand what he's talking about, right? He's a nerdy kind of a bloke. He's got his own business, fair dues. He's done very well. But he's a nerdy kind of a bloke. And back a few years ago, there was a guy who worked there. I can't remember his name. I never knew him well at all. And people often said to me, the good thing is he's got this bloke behind him, because this bloke is very logical and very sensible, and he could, I suppose, distill down the nerdism or whatever. Anyway, so he was talking to me about a job, and he offered me a job, and I turned it down in the end. I thought, I just don't see how that's going to work. Anyway, one of the points is that he said to me, he said, look, how come, and I've known him for years, right? He said, how come you're in the situation you're in? And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, usually somebody like you, in this stage of their life, they'd be running a media company. And it did make me think about it, and it made me it made me think about it. Now, there are some reasons for that, which I'll go into at some stage later, definitely when I start telling a bit more of the story of my background. But anyway, he made a good point. It made me remember as well about back when I was training to be a journalist. So this was in 1976, 77. It would have been 1977, beginning of 1977. And I got accepted on this course, right, for Thompson Regional Newspapers. Obviously don't exist anymore, but they owned the Times at the time, the London Times, as it's often referred to. They owned a lot of other newspapers. They owned a massive amount of local newspapers as well. And I managed to get on this course, and it was really, really good. And it was a 6-month course. They distilled a year-long course, which you would have done at college for no pay, into this 6-month course where you also got paid. I got accepted for both of them. And I decided, obviously, on this one because it was quicker, although that wasn't really my driving force. My driving sort of force about that was that I got paid a salary, which was really good. So yeah, that's what I was doing. And hang on, I'm going to turn my phone over. I keep doing this, don't I? I keep getting messages, mainly from the wife, asking where this is or where that is. That's another subject, isn't it? Anyway, point is, at the end of the course, we had all these kind of newspaper executives come from both from Thompson Regional Newspapers, but from others as well. And one of the blokes who came, he just bought some newspapers in the UK. Anyway, it was an evening and chatting to people and, having a few drinks and all that sort of stuff. The following day, one of the tutors said to me, he said, oh, that guy you were talking to last night? I couldn't even remember, to be perfectly honest, a few too many beers. He said, that bloke you were talking to, he said, you're going to go far. I said, oh, okay. And I said, who was that then? He said, oh, well, do you remember him? He's a guy who's bought a few newspapers recently. His name is, and he couldn't think of it for a while. And he said, Rupert Murdoch. That's his name. Right, okay. Meant nothing to me at all. And probably to not many other people. Anyway, he said, I'd go far, right? Anyway, I don't really think I've ever gone far. Anyway, years later, of course, I ended up working for News Corp here in Sydney. Or here in Australia, in Sydney. And what used to happen is Rupert Murdoch used to come over every year. I don't know if he still does. Obviously, I don't work there anymore. But he used to come over every year, and he used to, meet the troops kind of a thing, right? And give us a bit of a pep talk and usually sack a few people as well, just to make it interesting. And so anyway, he came over, and it was very, very hard, obviously, to get to talk to him because he would talk to, the editors of the big national newspapers, the Daily Telegraph, the Australian, and things like this, and also obviously head of departments. Anyway, I told my boss about this at the time, and she said, that's great. I've got to try and get you to meet him again. And I said, yeah, okay. Anyway, she did. I had about 5 minutes with him or something. Anyway, I said, I don't know if you remember, but this is what happened. And I told him what had happened, and he laughed. He said, oh, I don't remember it, to be perfectly honest. But he said, I guess when I meant you'll go far, I meant you'll go to Australia. so there you go. Anyway, my meeting with Rupert. Okay, so that's that. So today, what have I done? Well, it's Sunday here, and I went to the Rugby Union Gala Day. This is basically a day for kids who play rugby union, and they get together with teams from all over the region and battle it out, right? So this ranges from very, very young children who can barely handle a ball, quite frankly, up to under 17s, although the local team don't have an under 17 side. There's just not enough people. They do have an under 12 side. Anyway, so the idea is I go along. I was asked to go along. Would I go along, take some pictures and all of that sort of stuff? And I said, yeah, that's good. And it's freezing cold today, I've got to say. I say freezing. It's what you get used to, isn't it? It's not freezing by European standards or British standards, right? But it was cold. It's 13 degrees. Wind is blowing, so it kind of sighs through you, But it's sunny, so it's lovely, really, in a way. Anyway, I go there, and I'm taking some pictures and some video, a little bit of video I put on Facebook and say the event's on, blah, blah, blah. And I'm taking pictures of the kids. And it's really funny because some really young kids there, and I'm taking pictures of them. And one of them goes to me, are you Scottish? Do I sound Scottish? I didn't say that to her. I said, no, I'm not actually. I'm English. Although increasingly, I sometimes don't think I am. But anyway, I am. It's imbued in me for various reasons, which at some stage we'll go into later. But anyway, the weird thing is that this is a second person here who said they think I'm Scottish. So I've got two dogs, Leo and Oscar. I'll just mention it again. I've mentioned them before. I'm not going to go on about them again. I've got two dogs. Every morning when I was at home, which I'm not at the moment, I'll be walking my dogs. I'd often meet this woman. She's walking her dogs, right? And that'd be that. We never really had any conversation about it, any dog conversation, nice dogs. Yeah, your dog's nice too, that sort of thing. Anyway, so when I wasn't there, because I was in Broken Hill at the time, actually, on the Barrier Truth newspaper, and the wife obviously was taking the dogs out for a walk in the mornings with my younger son. And one day the woman said to her, oh, where is the man who normally walks the dogs? And my wife said, that's my husband. He's not here at the moment. She said, oh, yes, I wondered. I said to my partner, this is a woman. She said to I said to my partner, I wonder where that Scottish man is. Where does this come from, Anyway, here's a weird thing, right? Maybe there's something in it. Maybe there's something they're picking up, an undertone, an undercurrent. I don't know. But here's the thing. So years and years ago, all right, I've always been proud of being English, right? Always been proud of that. And when I lived in Britain, I used to buy things made in Britain. I insisted on doing that if I could. I was really supportive of Britain as a country. I thought it was a great bloody country. I say that in the past tense, don't I? Yeah, maybe these days things have changed. But anyway, well, they have. A lot of things have changed. But when I was there, we left in 1997. And I've mentioned that, I know, before. Anyway, I'm not going to worry about that. So what I decided to do at some stage, remember when all these like hereditary websites came up? You can get in touch with your relatives here, there, and everywhere. I wasn't really interested in that at all. The wife was, right? She never knew who her father was. So it's another story. But she decided she wanted to search into it. Anyway, point is, you can do these genetic tests now, as many of you know, where you can, you do a bit of a swab thing and then you send it off and then it tells you what your ethnic, I suppose, background is. I was expecting it to come back, obviously. I did it, and I was expecting it to come back and say, oh, he's English, and he's probably related to, Bonnie Prince Charlie or something. Ludicrous. Anyway, when he comes back, right, it was quite a shock for me It was quite a shock because it said I was 54% Scandinavian. What? I suppose that made sense when I thought about it because of the Vikings, right? Pillaging England and Britain, right? I don't think that was a great idea myself, but anyway, that's what they did. Can't do anything about that now. And then a major percentage after that, the next biggest percentage, was Scottish, Welsh, or Irish. So Gaelic, right? No Anglo-Saxon in there whatsoever. And if you're asking, Anglo-Saxons came from Germany initially, right? So they weren't obviously English. I mean, there was nothing here probably, and people came and populated the place, right? Anyway, I was quite shocked by this. A small percentage, I think it was 1%, Sardinian. Where does that come from? So somewhere along the line, somebody in the family's dabbled a bit and gone off with somebody from Sardinia. How interesting is that? And also a very small percentage, I think it was about 1% again, was of North American Indian, right? Again, where does that come from? It's so bizarre, isn't it, really? Anyway, it gave me pause for thought. I thought, I'm not English as I understand it, right? I'm not Anglo-Saxon. I'm Celtic, which goes back even further, obviously, right? You know, Scots, the Welsh, the Irish, they were certainly there before the Anglo-Saxons came over. So it goes back a long way. And so with obviously the Vikings as well, way back then. So very, very interesting. But here's the thing. So when I had a house in France, I'll talk about that one more one day. I ended up with 2 houses in France next door to each other. Sounds a bit poncy. It is really. But anyway, when I was there, interesting thing was a couple of the French women I knew lost opportunities there. I'll talk about that at some stage too. There's more to say about that. Anyway, they always said that there were several things. Like the English, they always referred to the English as roast beef, right? Which was French for roast beef, because I don't think they really had a phrase for roast beef. Anyway, they always called us the roast beefs. But what they also said was, when English children are born, generally white English children, right? Generally speaking, they have blonde hair. I did. I had a full head of blonde hair. Can you believe it? And it's all gone now. I had a full head of blonde hair. And the French always call them little Vikings, right? And that's why. It's the Viking blood in us, right? Very, very interesting. Anyway, there you go. So there we go. Now, tomorrow, Monday, what am I doing tomorrow? Well, I am going to a town. I've said it before, haven't I? I don't know why I hesitate. It's a village, really. It's a village called Ungary, right? It's 50 kilometers away. I've said that before. Anyway, the point about it is, so where does that name Ungary come from? Well, apparently it comes from the Aboriginal name for thigh, right? Which is weird, isn't it? Why would you think to yourself, let's have a think about a name for this place. Let's call it Chipping Sodbury, right? That's weird in itself, isn't it? But these people went, let's call it thigh. Oh, it doesn't sound really great, does it? Why don't we use the Aboriginal word, right? Ungary. Anyway, I suppose people came here. The Aboriginal folks were here, presumably, and they called it Ungary, and that's where they got the name from. Anyway, tomorrow, I'm going down there because they've got the regional library truck coming along, right? The council have just signed a deal with several other councils in the area to provide this truck. It's a massive truck, right? Full of library books. It's got so much room inside. It's like a trailer, massive trailer, right? It's got so much room inside. They have like meetings in there and classes and things like that to teach people about stuff. Now, I'm going down there tomorrow. I'm going to talk to a few people. I'm going to ask them, what does this mean to you? And I think it does mean quite a lot to them, actually. I don't want to presuppose it, obviously. As a journalist, you should never do that. Another quick journalism lesson. Go in with an open mind. Have a bit of an idea about what the story is likely to be, but don't think this is going to be the story. I don't know until I get there, right? Something else could come up, you know, and then the story could change. Anyway, thing is with it, it's really interesting to me because when I was a kid, when am I talking about? Late 60s, 1970s, really. 1981, I went to London. So I was an adult, but then I was 21, I think, if I remember correctly, 81 or 82. So, but the thing is, I spent a lot of time in the library, right? That's where you had to find out information. You couldn't find it out anywhere else. It's impossible, you know. And my dad, he spoke fluent Russian. There's another story. We'll get onto that as one day as well. But I was interested, fascinated by Russia, partly because of that. And I started learning it as well and became reasonably fluent in it. I'm also reasonably fluent, can you believe, it's honestly true, in Anglo-Saxon. Min nama Tony. It means my name is Tony. I thought about learning Anglo-Saxon, you know, getting it really fluent and all that. And I thought, well, it's not a lot of use really, is it? Because who else am I going to talk to really, unless I can go back in time? Maybe that's the reason I'm learning it. I don't know. How spooky is that? Anyway, the point is, in Britain, since we left, right, in 97, I follow what's going on there. They closed a load of libraries down. How ludicrous is this, right? How ludicrous. And it's a money-saving thing, right? It's not a case of thinking we're closing them because the internet's taking over. That was never why they were thinking about it. They just wanted to save money. Very, very, very sad, right? It's not happened here, thank God. But of course it could. You've got to be careful. But I think people here have a bit of an eye to the older population, and they want to support them. And those are, you know, basically the people who still like libraries. But the point is about libraries. A library, it's not just a place to go and get books and read books and open books. It's a sanctuary, right? It's a place to go and feel relaxed, especially as you have to be silent and they'll tick you off if you're not. But it's a place to go to be relaxed and where you can have your own peace and quiet for a while, right? And a bit of solitude. There's more things to it than just books. Anyway, so I'm really interested in talking to these folks tomorrow. And yeah, that's part of what I suppose a local journalist is about as well. It's about finding out what the locals think about things. You know, it's really important. Anyway, there you go. So, so anyway, you know, I'm not Scottish, I don't think, but who knows? There could be something there in the background which is coming out. People are thinking I sound Scottish. I don't know. Anyway, all right, that's about it for me. I'm gonna have a shave and a shower now, is what I'm gonna do, and then I'll be back tomorrow. Anyway. Nobody's watching, but listen, have a good evening, morning, or night time, whatever you're doing. I don't know. And just try and have a good day, okay? Sunday's coming up for some of you, and I've already had Sunday. So make the most of it, actually, because we're never going to get another one, are we? Not this one, anyway. All right. Take care, everybody. And, yeah, we'll talk again tomorrow, I guess, once I've been to the library.